I have watched every episode of Suits. I have rewatched the first season of Better Call Saul. And I have sat through Big Mouth. But nothing, and I mean nothing, has ever made me more pissed off than Mating Season by Nick Kroll. This show is, oh my god, it's so bad. It actually gives me tremors when I think about it. This show is so unoriginal, so cheaply produced, so blatantly contrived that I can't imagine a single person who would enjoy it. It's not interesting. It is a terrible idea for a show. I don't understand how this got greenlit and how there's an entire season of this to go watch right now. It is insanity. So if you don't know, let me give you some background. Nick Kroll, also known as Nick Birch, is the mastermind behind Big Mouth and Human Resources. So what are those? These shows are Netflix animated adult shows that explore the ideas of life in general and sexuality. And what it really is a way for Nick Kroll to espouse Zog agenda and intense liberalism, which I am not a big fan of. I am liberal in a lot of ways, like I believe that substances as an entire thing should all fall under the same umbrella of legality. I think that either every single substance in the world should be completely legal to own and use by consenting adults, or none of them should be. I believe in gay rights, very much so, as a member of that community. That stuff is very important to me, I think that stuff like that can very easily jive with modern politics today. And you don't have to be a raging liberal to say I don't hate gay people or I'm okay with retards smoking weed. They're still retards because they smoke weed, but they're allowed to do it. It's not something that needs to be rattled on. But what I don't understand is why Nick Kroll's shows are so liberal. It's in their shows, it's kind of like the agenda is pushed in a way where it seems the people who have these opinions about liberalism and people who associate themselves with it are, well, how do I say this? Morally superior in every possible way. They sort of paint the liberal umbrella of ideologies as the voice of reason and the voice of ethos, of compassion. And we don't really need to get into whether or not that is true or if you want to believe in that or not, because it's not really important to this video. But that show, Big Mouth, they got ordered 8 seasons of it before it was canceled. 8 seasons of a show that is literally cheese pizza. It's literally just cheese pizza. So I don't understand how that kind of thing happens. I don't understand how it can happen twice, Then after that, the second time, we got Human Resources. I personally enjoyed Human Resources a lot more than Big Mouth. I feel like it's more acceptable because most of the characters follow adult stories, and the characters themselves are of age. They're not actual children, but that's not entirely true. Some of them are in Human Resources, but most of them aren't. So for that reason, it's more tolerable, You don't feel this raging uncomfortability about the fact that you were literally watching, what's that snuff film? The Brazilian one about the kid who's learning how to grow up and he crawls inside of a bowl. I don't remember what it's called, but it's less, it's human resources is less like that. It's not as much of a thing. But I would say the furthest departure in what we will be talking about today is mating season. Mating season is the third and what I hope to be final attempt Nick Kroll makes to produce a show. And it seems like every time one of these shows comes out, a little bit of his soul gets sucked out with him. Like with Big Mouth, he was telling stories, some of them from his childhood, most of them completely fabricated, not real. And I feel like if they weren't fabricated, the show wouldn't be interesting, because there's not a whole lot that can happen in a kid's life that you can talk about for 8 seasons, you know? Especially the period of time that they are going off of. So the first show, Big Mouth, it seemed to have sucked a lot of his creative juices out. It seemed that he had some good moments, there were some good jump cut jokes. Maury is arguably funny, and it can be, I would say the first time you watch Big Mouth, it's hard, it can be painful sometimes, but it's kind of like you're watching a really bad episode of South Park. And even the really bad episodes of South Park are still watchable. That's the best way I can describe it. Big Mouth is like a hyper-liberal, really bad version of South Park. And I would only say that about the first couple seasons, though. Towards the end, they get into really, really just cringy topics like body positivity and abortion, and what else do they talk about? Edging, you know? And these topics, they have the potential to be funny, but not when they're being produced and pushed by children. It's really fucked up. It's really fucked up. And I think that is the one thing I will give Mating Season. Mating Season is not a show that follows kids in middle school going to high school and all of this graphic scenes, just graphic things that should never have been greenlit. I don't know how they got away with it. It's just, it makes me angry sometimes to think about just how much Big Mouth was able to get away with. And that's what Mating Season doesn't do. Mating Season isn't graphic. You're not seeing full-blown nudity. Well, let me be honest with you. I only watched the first 2 episodes because I almost got a nosebleed by how angry I was at this show when I was watching it. Mating Season is boring to start. It is incredibly crude in ways that it really doesn't need to be, because I feel like you have the opportunity to talk about some really interesting things in this sort of like Zootopia-esque concept. And while we brought up Zootopia, let me just say this. This show, you might be thinking, it's called Mating Season. It's about anthropomorphic animals. But wouldn't that mean it was just made for furries? My answer to that question is no, it wasn't. And if it was, Nick Kroll really doesn't know how to feed his audience that he's targeting. Because not only is this show not made for them, but the characters in it are just so unappealing. Like, I can't understand, like, I can understand, like, somebody talking about, like, Lopunny and saying, like, oh, okay, it's a curvy bunny, and it walks on 2 legs, so let's make some art of it. But these characters are just, like, perturbing. They're gross. I don't understand why anybody would sit down for 25 minutes and watch these characters do stuff. And this is actually the exact same problem that Big Mouth and Human Resources had. For some reason, Nick Kroll is obsessed with making his characters look as ugly as possible. My theory is the reason why he's doing that is he thinks if these characters are unappealing enough, we can get away with having them do incredibly graphic things. Because if they're not unappealing, those graphic scenes would probably go viral, and it would get a lot of negative attention in the media towards these shows, which obviously Nick doesn't want. He can't handle negative attention. He can only handle good attention. And the critics agree. If you go onto Rotten Tomatoes and you look at the Big Mouth score, I think the last time I checked it was 100%. Completely fresh. They think that it pushes boundaries and breaks the mold, and that it is a benefit to society and entertainment in general. And I just couldn't possibly agree less. It doesn't make any sense why that rating would be like that. And I haven't checked the mating season rating, and I'm sorry, my brain just hemorrhaged by just how bad this is. I haven't checked the rating, but I'm assuming it's fresh, you know? That's the thing about Nick Kroll, is that he panders to the lowest common critic. He panders to hyper-liberalism and hyper-progressivism and this idea of pushing boundaries that don't need to be pushed. And like I've said in yesterday's video, jokes are all about breaking rules. Jokes are about pushing boundaries. That's what makes them funny. But he pushes boundaries without making jokes. And when you push a boundary without making a joke about that boundary, all you're doing is basically just insulting the people that you're telling it to. Because you're saying, hey, I'm going to do something that's going to make people uncomfortable, and there's going to be no upside to it. That is the perfect way to describe Nick Kroll's animated cartoon adult series in general. Is I'm going to say something that is uncomfortable. I'm going to say something that you don't necessarily want to hear, and I'm not going to make you laugh because of it. I'm not going to tell a joke with my inflammatory statements or imagery. I'm just going to give them to you and expect you to like it. That is like that. I just cannot. I've never seen anybody fail this hard. This is a failure in every possible facet. It doesn't make sense to me. It's like an enigma. It's like the Enigma code. And like, seriously, why was this made? It makes me physically hurt to think about this show. All three of these shows, the trilogy of Cancer. And like I said, Big Mouth has moments, you know. I really like the dynamic between Jay and Matthew. I think that is a cool dynamic. I enjoy Maury's references, and the Andrew and Lola arc was really funny. I thought that was good. But other times, the episode will just make you feel uncomfortable, and it won't tell a joke. Or worse, it'll do something that is not only not funny, but takes up an inordinate amount of time in the episode just to drag out the uncomfortability. I'll give you a prime example of that. The Korean spa episode in Big Mouth. They literally show graphic, like the most graphic nudity that has ever been in a show on Netflix, let alone Big Mouth. And they sing a song about it with these characters for like an entire 2-3 minute block of time. It is so gross, it is so unnerving, and it stresses me out just to think about it, because like it feels like I'm committing a crime watching these shows. Seriously. Multiple crimes. Moral crimes, legal crimes. These shows feel wrong. They feel uncanny. Uncanny is the perfect way to describe Nick Kroll's animation style. Obviously, he's not the artist. He's not the one picking out how these characters look, but he has a pretty big say in it. It's kind of like Seth MacFarlane in Family Guy. He's not the one animating it, but he approves the designs. Nick Kroll makes his characters just look like he wants you to hate them. These stories are constantly trying to humanize or bring down to earth these characters, make them feel relatable, make them feel like, yo, he's just like me for real. But the truth behind it, the proof of the pudding, is that these characters are gross, they are highly unrealistic, and they are dangerous to the youth of our country. And now it's time for me to talk to you about one of the less big points, but something that is so blatant that I just have to talk about it. The fact that this show, Mating Season, is not only a ripoff of season 1 of... It's like Big Mouth if the characters had a time skip. The two main characters are literally voiced by the same two main characters of Big Mouth. They're voiced by Nick Kroll and Andrew Goldberg, these two guys. And remember how Andrew Gleiberman in Big Mouth was tall and Nick Birch was short? Well, in Mating Season, Nick Birch is a short raccoon and Andrew Gleiberman is a tall bear. It is... And they're doing the same voices too. Like, they're not even changing the way they talk. It is literally Big Mouth. It's literally just Big Mouth, only with disgusting furries. And I say disgusting furries because some furries are rich. Some furries are well-groomed, they take care of themselves. Their suit costs like thousands of dollars. What I'm talking about right now is this show, Mating Season, probably best describes the furries that you see at a public high school that wear tail plugs and have like 40 buttons on their military surplus jacket or leather jacket that's not real leather. That's Mating Season. It is. And let me just say, I don't understand why Nick Kroll thinks that sexual comedy is like good or funny, because it isn't. It's just uncomfortable. And I have a really dark sense of humor, you know. I make Holocaust jokes daily. But it's uncomfortable to sit there and say, oh, we're gonna have an entire episode where two characters' genitals are stuck together. Like, that's gross. That's weird. It doesn't matter if the characters are adults. It's just like, can you imagine watching this with anybody? Who watches this with you? You either watch it alone or you watch it with who? Because I would be deeply ashamed if I would rather somebody walk in on me smoking meth than watching a Nick Kroll show. That is the truth. Because I would have less shame about the intense drug abuse, and that's coming from a recovering addict, okay? I have deep shame about my past life. But I would rather somebody walk in on me doing hard drugs than walk in on me reviewing an episode of Mating Season, Big Mouth, or Human Resources. Because it's uncomfortable. It makes you sit there, like, trying to look away from the screen, like, why is this a thing? Like, this is so weird. And, like, in the first episode of Mating Season, it ends with Andrew Gleiberman biting someone's dick off. Why? Why does it have to be something like that? It's always something like that. And here's another thing that really fucks with me, is that for some reason Nick Kroll makes these shows with sexual comedy, and then we'll do a 180 and do comedy with gore. And I think gore comedy can be done really well. We have Happy Tree Friends, which I think is really funny. We have The House That Jack Built, which, believe it or not, was marketed as a comedy when it came out. But, like, it's just like, hey, I'm gonna cross a line, you're not gonna laugh, and then I'm gonna cross another line, and you're not gonna laugh. And you're gonna sit there and like it. Listen, it's the year 2026, it's early June. If we get to the year 2028, and a season 2 of Mating Season gets announced, I will do something that I regret on camera. So, I mean, if you don't believe me, if you think that everything that I've said in this video is just like rage bait or not true or something else, please, I implore you, go check out this show. This show is lazy, it is boring, it is way too graphic, And you know what's weird? Nick Kroll has mastered the art of being incredibly unsettlingly graphic while also showing nothing. It's weird. Like, because they're animals, there's obscurities to the sort of actions that are being taken place. But even so, it just doesn't care. I think, like, in the first 30 seconds of the show opening, they show, like, the raccoon and another character just doing something that I'm not going to say out loud. Doing something that is just while talking to somebody, while having a conversation with a dude that is standing right in front of him. And it's just, don't go check it out. Just don't. Trust me when I say this is 20 minutes that you can never get back mating season. And I would rather you spend them here learning about why things like this shouldn't be getting our support. As a community, we need to be able to stand together and say this is not acceptable. This is something that we cannot let continue. We cannot let funding go to this, because it sets a precedent that people in the future could do something worse. This is like, we need something to stop Nick Kroll the way we needed TSA to stop 9/11. And it's that serious. I mean, I would venture to say that mating season has done more harm to our society than 9/11. That's barely even an exaggeration. So, thank you for watching all the way until the end here. I'm trying to make these videos less than 30 minutes now because they do better in the algorithm when they're shorter. But I don't like doing like 10-minute videos. I want to be able to speak my mind on a topic. But I just wanted to talk to you guys about this show. Don't watch it. It's not worth watching. Just take my word for it. It's I would say the perfect way to conclude my opinion on Nick Kroll's new show is it is shock value without the value and without the joke. So, thank you for watching. Until next time, this has been Probable Cause.